Okay.
Yep. Sounds good.
All those paragraphs but you need more info. All right, cool. That's what
In the fourth quarter. This is the Dane Moore NBA podcast. We're coming at you Saturday evening. It's April 5th. We are live here at Treasure Island Resort and Casino. Thank you all for coming out tonight. It's going to be fun to hang out and watch this game. Wolves, Sixers, 16.5-point favorite. Minnesota Timberwolves. It'll be a good one. And then we got the Final Four afterwards as well. Houston, Duke. We'll be sticking around for that as well. I got Kyle Theige here with me. Cooper Carlson on the board. You guys can clap for them. Yeah, Coop. Cooper. So what I wanted to do for this episode, we're doing this obviously right before a game, so we're not going to be breaking down a game or anything. But I wanted to just think about the season. And I feel like in my time doing this, Kyle, every season kind of has like a few things that after like the scales of the year fall off, you like look back and you're like, I'm going to remember that season this way. And obviously we have the playoffs and stuff to go, but I think there's specific things we're going to remember from this season. I was thinking back to the Pat Bev and Vando year, right? It's like, okay, that team couldn't rebound at all. Really fun, active, but it has these specific things. Last year, I think we learned like, okay, the Cat and Rudy pairing, turns out that does work. There was that Rubio season, remember where they like couldn't ever win a fourth quarter? There's just like these things that stick to every season. So when I put that to you, what is a top line thing that you feel like you will remember from this season?
A late Friday night in late September, being at a bar, getting a notification that Kyle Towns had been traded. That kind of kicked things off. And I think that has just ruminated throughout the last 6 or 7 months. I think they finally have established a new Carl-less identity with Julius and Dante becoming more comfortable. But we always joke about doing the DVD of the season at the end. The DVD starts with Karl-Anthony Towns getting traded kind of out of nowhere, because I think the ripple effects of how that affected your draft class, how it affected your rotations, all of that stuff, it threw a pretty big wrench into something 48 hours before media day started.
Yeah, I had that down too, even from just like a Rob Dillingham and Terrence Shannon Jr. and Joe Ingles. Like those guys were all supposed to play this year.
Yeah.
Like they were drafted or assigned to be players that were going to be in the Wolves rotation this year. And then that trade happens and it totally, obviously the trade was a lot more important than Joe Ingles not being able to play, but it just kind of set the season off on a kind of off foot, right? Where we were navigating what this team even is. They were clearly navigating who they were going to be. So obviously, yes, we were going to remember this season as like they traded for Julius Randle and Dante DiVincenzo, and it was rocky. And that'll probably be defined by how it ends with the playoffs and what specifically I think those two look like in the context of this team in the playoffs.
And I think it affected them more than they'll ever admit, just because it was, again, a seismic change right when everyone's kind of showing up to town. I remember Dante was kind of just weird for the first couple of weeks, and he explained in November that it takes a while when, you think 2 days later I'm going to start warming up at, Madison Square Garden for the first day of training camp, and now I live in Minnesota. So I think that was the first domino. But then in terms of basketball, when the season started, the thing I'll remember this year is just every year you're thinking, can Anthony Edwards take a leap? Can he take a leap? And you saw playoff Ant last year. You see him in the Olympics. But for a guy that shot, I think, 33% on 7 attempts as a rookie from 3 to basically all season be almost a 40% shooter on 10 attempts. That was the biggest basketball-related kind of thing that I'll put a pin in, because it's changed the offense. And again, that ties into losing Carl and his volume and his, effectiveness from 3. But the Ant leap just from shooting threes. Those first couple weeks and months were insane. And now to see that he's breaking, Steph Curry records and stuff, and it's another dynamic part of his game on top of, the playmaking, which is highs and lows still. But when I think about basketball things, I'll think first and foremost about what Ant did all season from 3.
So he's taking 10.1 threes per game this season. There's 5 players who are taking 10 plus threes per game. There's Curry, and he's shooting 40% from 3. There's LaMelo Ball, shooting over 10, and he's shooting 34% from 3, or shot 34% from 3. Brandon Miller also was, and he's 36% from 3. Jason Tatum is the other one, and he's shooting 34% from 3, and Ant is also at 40. So it's like he is literally in this class of only 5 players who are taking double digits threes per game. 3 of them are not shooting them at a good clip, and Ant is in the Steph Curry bin. I mean, it isn't even like a hyperbolic thing to say that it's like Anthony Edwards and Stephen Curry are the highest volume, most effective three-point shooters in the NBA. And I don't know, like in the summertime, would have we ever imagined that? I mean, I could have seen Ant getting up to 40%, but it's the combination of the volume and the accuracy that just makes it so, quite frankly, he can be pretty rocky in a lot of other areas of the game. But if you're doing that that in and of itself is an all-star, and now you add the other things. You add the playmaking, you add the downhill element, the defense when he's locked in, and it's even more to me than like a leap. That's not like the foundation of who I think Ant is. And there was always kind of something missing where we're like, okay, Ant is awesome, but what is Ant's like best thing? This is Ant's best thing because it's the most impactful thing. Like he can dunk, he can get to the basket, he can get to the free throw line, but he can do this 10 times a game at a Steph Curry clip. I mean, yeah, this is the shift. This is the biggest change. This is the number one thing I had down to.
I mean, it feels like he's been here for a really long time, although it's only been 5 years. And everyone here has probably watched every one of his games. But, like, he was drafted as an athlete, right? I mean, like, I know we thought maybe he could shoot that percentage for 1 year, but to do it, like you said, on the volume, but just every year it's been something else. I mean, he's the definition of a 3-level scorer. He can be a two-way player. I mean, his defense, comes and goes a little bit, but he turns it on when it matters most. But I mean, that also does kind of tie into the Conley Towns trade because you trade a player like that and you're like, okay, how is the spacing going to work, whatever. And he just decided to kind of manufacture some of his own spacing by himself. But that was the big one for me because it's been consistent. I definitely was as optimistic as I can be. I was like, that's not going to last for all 82 games and 77 games in. Like, he's still kind of doing it. But what was one of yours? Because I have another one that was really important. But
I just had an extension off of Ant. I had the 3-point volume. I just said, like, this year, this team became such a reflection of Ant. And, and obviously in previous seasons, like, Ant and Cat were sharing the crown in many ways, just from like a pecking order standpoint, who the last guy's name is called when, they're introducing the player, all that stuff. But this team, it's just clearly Ant. He has the most impactful skill set, which we just went over, is elite 3-point volume shooting. But the negative things too, the technical fouls that this team has had, the problems they've had with the refs, the nature of this team turning up for certain teams and turning down for other teams. I mean, if that isn't a reflection of Ant, those things are all Ant as the common denominator of this team. And it just didn't, the first 4 years to me, didn't feel like Ant totally controlled the ship. Because if Ant was having one of his, I'm not really trying games, well, insert Cat to score 62 points against the Hornets. That didn't work either, but there was different kind of measures that could paper over some of Ant's shortcomings. Now it's like if Ant isn't doing something or Ant is doing something, we feel it always because it's his team.
And again, back to the DVD, like you forget how much shit took place this year. Like just to your point about the team taking Ant's identity or kind of being an Anthony Edwards team. There's the moment after the Celtics game where he's like, I'm tired of being double teamed, right? There's the locker room after the Kings game where he's like, we suck, right? And they both times the team responded to that type of leadership, which again, I mean, we give him so many flowers, but for being 23 and being like, I'm leading this team now. Like they are my identity. That's you didn't really know that was a question mark when Carl left because there was a lot of basketball things maybe that Carl frustrated you with, but it did sound like he had, a good vibe in that locker room, and it was all Ant once Carl left. And I think he did a good job of being like, okay, this is my locker room now.
I even think for Ant, it was confusing at the beginning. I remember asking him about this like at media day, before the training camp started. It's kind of like the idea of it being your team, the idea of you being the clear leader. And, Ant doesn't often get uncomfortable with questions at all, make some sort of joke. But he was just like, I don't even have my head wrapped around it yet, And I think when we can talk about like the integration of Julius Randle, some of the DiVincenzo things that you were talking about, reflecting on the season as a whole, like that October, November, and it being rocky, I think was, again, a product of Ant not exactly knowing who he needed to be on this team, yet this team was going to reflect whatever it was that he chose to be all season or just night to night. It's the Ant season to me. Like that's the main thing, even if they're because that's the biggest byproduct, I think, of the trade. That's bigger than Julius Randle. That's bigger than Dante DiVincenzo.
Yeah, they bet that Ant could take even more of a load on his shoulders and not just all the basketball stuff, right? Like now you kind of got to be the face. It's not just about being the mural downtown. It's like, can you be the guy that when shit goes wrong, you kind of have to have a call to action? And I think so far that's happened. So do you have another one or do you want me to throw one more?
Yeah, as you can kind of probably see my notes here on my laptop. I wrote down that Randle's most valuable skill set to this team is his playmaking. And we all know that now. I don't know if we knew that like on October 20th, that it was like, actually what this team needs most is Julius to collapse the defense and be a playmaker and find shooters. And that has, as frustrating and up and down as the Randle experience has been, when we look at this now 77 games into the season, one of the biggest statistical markers of this team is they shoot a ton of threes and they make a ton of threes. This team was not doing that last year. Last year they were 20th in three-point volume. This year they're 5th. And that, even though Julius Randle is a significantly worse three-point shooter than him, that delta to me is like, obviously it's Ant increasing his volume too, but for everybody else to be, the rest of the guys to be shooting threes, that's a product of Julius collapsing. I mean, I know we've talked about it, but I think that's something we'll remember from this year too, is that Randle or that type of player has value next to Anthony Edwards, somebody who can draw and kick and find shooters around him. That keeps your spacing so Ant can do his thing.
And we're in a good place right now with Julius Randle.
Sure.
But I think we need to not overlook, like last year I had all those dumb tweets, right? Hey, look how far we've come, friends. Like we came a long way, right? Like I put out asking people like, hey, what were some of your best and worst memories from this season? And I had totally forgotten that it was literally 4 months ago that Julius Randle wouldn't throw Rudy Gobert the ball in the post, and then Rudy Gobert took a 9-second call, right? Like that was this season.
I don't even know what that rule is, but he did it, yeah.
So for them to kind of come in again, he had to acclimate just as much as Dante did. I mean, he came from being, before Brunson gets to New York, I mean, Julius Randle's the face of that franchise, and he comes in and he's in a whole new spot, and he's in the last year of his deal before his player option. So I think Julius Randle has really started to fit in. I remember game 2 against the Kings when Ant's like, we told him we're going to follow you. And it's like, that's a bad idea. But I think he's kind of found his own groove with this team. And like you said, when he has the, as you call it, 14-point triple-double where it's 14, 9, and 8.
Love it.
Those games, if that's what his line is in the box score and you didn't watch the game, I bet you if you look up, they probably won the game.
100%.
That is the best version of him. And credit to him finding some chemistry with Rudy, credit to him finding a lot of chemistry with Ant. But then also when he was out, I think it was important that guys like Nas and Jaden were able to take really big leaps and then kind of keep that going as Julius came back.
Do you want to do another one or you want me to go?
Yeah, I mean, many people that listen to this know, but I don't have kids of my own right now, but I would imagine that if I did, that feeling when your child does something really cool and you're proud of them, that's how I felt. That's how I felt when Jaden McDaniels learned how to rebound. I had that tweet where it's like he had 278 games in his first 4 seasons, and he had 8 or more rebounds 19 times. And in 77 games this season, he's had 8 or more rebounds 24 times.
It's crazy.
Like that is just such a massive thing. And I think rebounding is as simple as it might be for some people, like gets him engaged more. Last year he was second team all defense, but for him to just be engaged more, I think also opened up his comfort level of, now he has a couple mid-range shots every game that he gets. Like that's just kind of a staple. He's going to get a couple shots in the mid-range. He's going to get a couple opportunities in transition. if he was just the same version of himself in year 5 as he was in year 3 and 4, I don't think they would have been able to rebound, especially without Julius and Rudy for those chunks of time. But that's like a pretty big thing because those first 4 years, he's not making much money as the 28th overall pick. But now he's on a real NBA fat extension, and they needed him to be more than just a corner shooter, which might never be, and a defensive guy. I mean, he's a rim protector. He gets to play off the ball more on defense. But then I think the offensive side and the rebounding, those are massive things because just like what happened with Andrew Wiggins, you would have been mortified had they have traded him at some point and then he goes and unlocks that like Wiggins did in Golden State. So him being a real backup center at times, like a power forward, which is not what you and I thought he was in year 2. That's like a huge development for this team, for him, but also I think for Ant.
No, yeah. I mean, what I had down for McDaniels, though, I think I'm more with yours, is McDaniels does, in fact, have another offensive level. I think when we do the Jaden specific, we're doing recap pods, we're thinking about it. Like, we saw that additional offensive level from Jaden, but I do think it's related to playing more like a big. It probably doesn't say that he played a ton of percentage of his minutes at like the 4 or 5 this year, but there was plenty of times throughout this season where he's been like the 3, yet he's in the dunker spot, or he's around the basket to get offensive rebounds, or more guarding bigger players to be getting more defensive rebounds, to get the defense, the rebounding part of it. But I think and Finch specifically has found, all right, here's another way to use Jaden that is probably going to get more effective offense out of him, more effective overall just impact, because you have the rebounding in there as well. And I just think he played a lot of power forward this year. And if we are at a point this summer where a Naz Reid or a Julius Randle is out, and you go from having 3 bigs down to 2 bigs, I think part of you starts freaking out of being like, oh no, do they got to draft a center or a big that's going to have to play right away next year? That might be messy. Or do you got to have to get a minimum contract guy to be the backup center? Well, maybe Jaden is just part of, if not a lot of the answer of the 3rd big next year, if they lose one of the main 2 power forwards right now.
And maybe you'll get into this, but maybe the vision of this team next year. I mean, there's still many games hopefully to play this year, but maybe the vision long-term is he's the 3rd big, and then you bring in more of, you have Terrence Shannon Jr. and Rob Dillingham and Jalen Clark and these other guards. And now you have a wider variety of 1 through 3 guys that can kind of all switch and play different positions. And then your trio of bigs is a Rudy, Naz, or Julius, and then Jaden. So I just think that is, I mean, obviously I'm biased and I'm a big fan of his game, but that leap is probably one that goes under the radar a little bit. But the combination of grabbing more rebounds, being more active offensively, and then also just never fouling out, or like not nearly as much as he did in the first 4 years. Those are all, he's had a really big, massive season as he, gets a 600% pay raise. I think his production on both sides has really grown too.
100%. Was that you or was that me?
That was me.
That was you?
Always me.
I said I think we're going to remember this year as the year that everyone turned on Finch. Right? I mean, like, yes, it was the most popular dude like 12 months ago. And then maybe not everyone. I see, Jordan, you're shaking your head there. But like, man, I was getting a lot of that, just a lot of, I don't necessarily think it's backed up in a lot of logic, but that was a product, I think, of the rockiness of this season. Was Finch went from, being this guy who kind of seemed like he could do no wrong, was kind of crowned the best coach in franchise history. And now every single time the Wolves lose a game, I have like 15 texts from friends of like, fire him. And I'm like, yeah, you said that last week too. I didn't respond to that text either. But that's been a weird part of this season.
Yeah, and I mean, I'm probably the most pro Finch guy there is, but I think this has been a tough season, and you watch a lot of the late game stuff, and you're trying to dissect or like diagnose like what is the problem, right? Even the Denver game, which is probably the win of the year, double overtime, it's like they have these late game execution moments, the 4th quarter, the 1st overtime, the 2nd overtime. And you're trying to navigate like how much of it on a blame pie is the coach, is it the players?
Do it. What do you think of the Denver game specifically?
God, the mic's hot.
Dude, it's all Ant. That was Ant. He turned the ball over with 14 seconds left in the game.
I think it was interesting that
regulation and overtime.
The first in regulation, for everyone that watched that game 4 times, like, Ant gets the ball in a really bad spot. They automatically double him, and he's like, okay, throw it to Julius. Finch says post-game, we thought Julius would have an advantage. Julius didn't do much with it. Then there's like that video where Ant's like telling him, like, I want to get the ball there. I want to get the ball there. So it's like Finch obliges and said, second overtime, I will get you the ball in that spot. And how does Ant respond? He turns the ball over.
Nope.
Right? So I just think those two that have a really unique, and I'm always saying, like, the stuff that Finch does behind the scenes is really important. But also, too, like, if they were to get bounced in the playoffs because of late game execution stuff again, I mean, there comes a point where there needs to be a kind of a come to Jesus moment of like, how do we solve this? Your identity can't be that we're pretty fucking good for 44 minutes. In the last 4 minutes, we are constantly at a disadvantage.
Right. For me personally, I really struggled with the first Gobert year with Finch. I mean, that was
unlock. Yeah.
I unlock and Rudy. It didn't and doesn't make sense to me to play a very like. Today's show is brought to you by Your Home Improvement Company, and it's springtime. Maybe it is time for you to get new windows in your home. Your Home Improvement Company has a buy 2 windows, get 2 windows free deal going on right now. Whatever your home project is, Your Home Improvement Company can be there to help you with 0 down, 0 interest, 0 payments until 2026. They got that buy 2, get 2 windows free deal going on, along with offering 30% off deal on a bathroom remodel. It could be a simple tub to shower conversion or a full-on bathroom renovation. Again, Your Home Improvement Company offers great financing deals, 0 money down, 0 interest, and 0 payments until 2026. All their work is done by certified professionals. If you are at the point where you think that you have a home improvement project that you need taken care of this spring, we would love it if you went to Your Home Improvement Company to get that taken care of. You can contact Your Home Improvement Company at 866-777-YHIC or by going to yourhomeimprovementco.com. Your Home Improvement Company, where it's your home made better. Today's show is also brought to you by Prize Picks, and I was looking at the slate for today's games. We got the Final Four. We got Cooper Flagg, more or less than 31.5 points plus rebounds plus assists. You think Flagg's going to have a big Final Four, a lot of rebounds, get some scoring, some assists. He's a all-around player. Maybe you like him more than 31.5 points plus rebounds plus assists. I also put down Rudy Gobert's number is at 11.5 rebounds, more or less than that. Rudy's been all over the glass offensively and defensively recently. I like Rudy to have 12 or more rebounds. I got Ant on there, 26.5 points. What do you think he's going to do against the Sixers? You like that more or less? As the Sixers maybe goes under it. Whatever that might be. Prize Picks is an option for you to play some daily fantasy. If you do not have an account, you can sign up at prizepicks.com or on the Prize Picks app. And if you sign up using the promo code Dane, they'll throw $50 in your account when you make your first $5 lineup. Conceptual offense when you're trying to like play pick and roll with Rudy Gobert. Like, I struggled with Finch a lot more 2 years ago of how he was coaching and what and the elements that weren't working then than I have this season. So but I felt like I was on an island 2 years ago with that because, he's just coming off of took the team, the Pat Bev team to the Memphis series, and it's like he's a great coach, but the Rudy thing was just so onerous, and specifically offensively, that year was tough, and I felt like I was getting labeled as being really hard on him. And then this season, I just haven't felt the same frustrations with them that I understand other people have had, and I think it's because specific to the late game stuff, I put more of that on Ant than the average person, I guess.
And every summer now,
I don't know if that's right.
Every summer now, our friend Britt Robson does a really cool sit down with the head coach, and they talk for hours and they nerd out over basketball. But it was my understanding through reading Britt's 4 pieces, but also as the season you got ready for the new season, I think Chris Finch maybe wasn't as surprised as you as I that Karl-Anthony Towns got traded, but I think he was surprised. And I would imagine that weekend before media day, he's getting ready to run it back again in the third year of these 2 bigs. And for that to kind of get pulled out from under him, I think it affected the players a lot. I think it affected the coaching staff because like we were going to go this way this season. And 48 hours before they kind of had to pivot the other way.
Yeah, no, that's gotta impact the coach as much as anybody.
Every year he's been here, there's been like the Pat Bev year. It's like, oh my God, they win the play-in, they're in the playoffs. That's awesome. Boom, Rudy Gobert trade, right? And then the next year there's some other move, and then this year there's the Julius for Carl trade. So they haven't had a lot of stability. But the one thing I always think about with Finch or the whole coaching staff or the front office is that they just don't have a lot of BS behind the scenes. Like there's not a lot of drama like we're so used to with the Minnesota Timberwolves. They don't have a Grizzlies situation. They don't have infighting, all that stuff. So I think he's done a good job, but I also think that those two, like they're the two most important people. Finch, I was saying this for the last 3 weeks, and Ant, they can't continue to have the same, whoever's fault it is, just bury it. Like you cannot have that level of execution come playoff time.
Why don't we do one more and then we'll do the call for them.
I just think Jalen Clark is the head of this, but I just think getting to see the young guys. I mean, Rob's probably at the bottom of it, but probably has the highest ceiling or still the most hope as a lottery pick. But every time they called on one of the young guys, and this is the pettiness in me as I think about when they traded for Gobert and every pick and every asset, and they have no young guys anymore. Every time a young guy needed to be called on, I mean, the Jalen Clark moment in Phoenix when you and I were there was awesome. And now Jalen Clark, I don't know how you keep him off the bench or off the court. And then Terrence is obviously hurt right now, but you probably have something real there in an older rookie who is like a plug-and-play type guy. And then Rob has had probably a season from hell. But, I mean, the floor now is pretty low. Like, I think an off-season, a summer league, all that stuff. But just seeing all the other young talent that this franchise could mold. I mean, it's not the exact same, but like Jaden and Nas and type of that, those guys were young, late first undrafted type guys that in the system, you know, the culture or whatever, like they've really built them up. So it's just been really fun to see those guys come into a contender, a team that made the Western Conference Finals and not really like lower the bar of expectations. They were like, hey, if you're going to get out there, you need to play pseudo championship level basketball. And I think Jalen and TJ and Rob all at times have done that.
Yeah, I put down Clark as one of my, I just wrote down things I learned this season that Jalen Clark can play. Like I just didn't, I mean, the percent chance that when we were at Summer League, like trying to find things to talk about the Summer League, like, we didn't even talk about Jalen Clark. We were like, I don't know, Terrence Shannon Jr. might be the 10th man. Like, that was also Jalen's first time playing basketball since UCLA.
Yeah.
Summer League. That was not that long ago. Since tearing his Achilles. It's one of the most, in my time covering this team, one of the most like, what, that happened? Like, would have never expected. I mean, he is shooting like 45% from three this year, right? Like, along with the defense. I think it's different than like when we got excited about like Naz Reid his second year, because I think with Naz, it was more like you could see the athleticism, a skill set, and like really something to kind of grow into. Clark is like kind of the opposite of that, where he is that like right now. And I'm not saying he can't develop further and maybe add some things to his game, but he is sort of been right away, like literally right away with that Phoenix game. I can guard, I can hit threes. I'm not scared.
Because like you said, to be an NBA player, you have to have a baseline of one specific skill that you're good at. And then Chris Finch loves talking about, stacking skills. But I think of like a guy like Josh Minot, who's had a frustrating experience, I think, in his tenure here. He has a lot of different possibilities and directions he could go as a player, but I don't know if any of them are like solidified. With Jalen, it was like, you were maybe the best defensive player in college 2 years ago. Can you just build off that? When he comes in, any scoring he gives you, any playmaking is a bonus, but he comes in and gives you top level defense whenever he gets his name called. So I think he's been a cool story. Also coming off an Achilles and stuff. Those things are just a really interesting, you never know what's going to happen for a late second round guy that has a big injury like that. And now he's kind of a core piece of what this team probably wants to do starting next season.
They're going to be doing giveaways all during when the game's going on right now. They have a signed Anthony Edwards jersey, and there'll be other giveaways. It looks like another basketball over there. To be able to be registered to win one of those, you just got to sign up for a free players card over here, and then you just put your sign-up slip in there, and they'll pull that out. So if any of you haven't done that or want to do that, you can go right over there and make that happen. We are going to bring up some guests. We have the Crunch Wears No Pants crew here. Let's give it a clap. They're going to come up and join. Yeah. Yes. I also wanted to say that they're going to be doing these watch parties here at Treasure Island all throughout the playoffs, and we'll let you know on the pod over the course of the season or the playoffs that they're going to be doing a giveaway where you can win a full-on trip to a Timberwolves road playoff game, flight, all that sort of stuff. So be listening to that. We're really really grateful for this partnership with Treasure Island, and this is a really cool opportunity for us to be here. Crunch Personal Pants. What's up, guys?
What's cracking, Dane? It's lovely to be here. I saw, Kyle, you said we were going to have some special guests on the pod, and people were like, is it Kevin Garnett? It's like, no, it's the Penis Pod group. So
Even better.
So we're stoked to be here. How should we go into what we're doing here?
Yeah, so what I texted you guys was, I mean, you can have more the same sort of idea of like how you're going to remember this season. Obviously, some of those were basketball-y related things. We can do more of those too, but
We got some
I'm wondering
vibes ones.
first. Yeah, how are you going to remember the vibes of this season?
Brandon Durf, do you guys mind if I kick this off?
You go ahead.
Do you guys remember November 10th, 2024? It was a game versus somebody. And Britt Robson tweeted at 8:26 Central Standard Time, Mike Conley's rep suddenly ain't what it used to be on that splayed airball come assist arguing for a flea. I'm going to remember that for a very long time.
That out.
Why didn't you stop him, Dane?
He's doing it the whole game. I can't get
God,
it.
he didn't stop him.
So, does that resonate with you, Kyle, the way that it resonated with us?
Anytime Britt Robson says anything, it resonates with me, especially when it kind of goes south. But the reason I put the books up here, and we kind of didn't talk about it too much, is that
Put it on the camera.
I talked about the Julius Randle experience.
There you go.
No one has understood the Julius Randle experience from a fan perspective more than I think the three of you. So can you explain to me what the Julius Randle experience has been like replacing Karl Towns and what he makes you feel maybe every time?
Well, I mean, he gives us those goosebumps every time. Is like the main takeaway from Julius Randle. Yeah, but it's just it's the playmaking, it's the trombone music.
So, you going to make me explain the meme on the pod?
My parents are here, and they probably have no idea why I had to buy 2 Goosebumps today at the Edina Barnes & Noble. So explain to them the situation.
So I was trying to workshop a bit about Julius Randle, bully ball, boom, reminds me of a brass section. And I knew on my Instagram reels, there's this woman who does trombone covers of hip hop songs. Well done, Dane.
Yeah, thank you.
And I was like, there's got to be one in here. And then she released a Goosebumps one. I'm like, holy shit, this is it. And then I just put it together. I didn't think anything of it. Then Brandon just poured gas on the fire and used it every time. But it makes so much sense. When he's banging around, doesn't that feel like a trombone? Do you ever play trombone?
I didn't play the trombone, but the meme has made me, I mean,
it makes sense.
From a basketball standpoint, I know you want to get into that. To go from Karl Towns to Julius Randle, I mean, we don't talk about that enough, even though we talked about it every day for the last 6 months. Like what that changes in basketball philosophy and style of play and how it comes off for the teammates, but also for the fans. Like, I think you guys really, like, all jokes aside, like, what has that been like for this version of this team versus last year's version of the team?
So for me, I kind of morphed into a bit of a Julius Randle apologist this season. Like, partially like the Goosebumps video, all that stuff, that's great. But I also thought Julius Randle got kind of an unfair bad rap, like right from the start with this thing, because like he didn't ask to be traded for like a franchise icon a week before training camp started. And I think it was a little unfair to him that at the beginning of the season, when things were objectively not going well, I don't think Julius Randle was like covering himself in glory at the beginning of the season. Like he was playing pretty poorly, but I thought that it was a little unfair that everything that went wrong with the team was Julius Randle's fault.
Right.
Like, sure, Jaden McDaniels' role was displaced a little bit, but like, it's not Julius Randle's fault that Jaden McDaniels just decided like, I'm only a corner 3-point shooter for the first 20 games of the season. And I just, like I said, so I turned into a little bit of a Julius Randle apologist, which was a weird place to be because I wasn't exactly like the biggest Julius Randle fan going into this season. And I recognized that there was some weird fitting things, but I just kind of, like I said, I just thought he was like in kind of an unfair bad position.
What do you got, Nate?
I was just going to say, like, so this all culminated is a season-long bit, started at the beginning of the year with this reel that Jordan produced. And in the a few weeks leading up to a Painting Nation, we called it Takeover of Section 238, up in the rafters.
Section 238.
We're wrecking the podcast.
Yeah. And so we buy out this whole section, and we're all in person. We're on social media, kind of, but you're in the game, so you're not really paying attention to online. And we suddenly start getting blown up on Twitter, like tweet after tweet after tweet, being like, Grady said goosebumps on air during. So he like, I think he dribble drives, kicks out to Dante in the corner,
It was
cashes it, and he goes goosebumps every time.
What are the odds that Grady understands the meme? I'm not even sure I do.
No
Just
idea.
explain
But
it, Jordan.
I think it had just enough juice. I think it had just enough juice. But yeah, I mean, we've talked about this. Like, he has, like this backlog of stuff where he tries to work it in wherever. And that was like the legitimizing of this bit that finally Julius is getting this glory that he deserves.
So yeah, I guess to be steeped in Wolf's glory like that is pretty tight. And like to bring it back to basketball, like Julius is the trombone cover of Goosebumps by Travis Scott, whereas Carl was more like the Mighty Mighty Boss Tones, like Scott, like what's going on? Tap, 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 tap. So it's just cool to see that type of. We haven't had a bully ball guy like that since when?
And I think you make a really great point, though. It's not just Julius being on the team now. It's who he replaced. And it's not a perfect comp, but like Jeff Teague was not liked for a lot of reasons, but one of them was that he's replacing Ricky Rubio. You know what I mean?
Now
So,
Jeff
like,
Teague rules.
Yeah, now Jeff Teague is as good at podcasting as any of us. But I just think that was a really tough spot. I said once in November that he had body language similar to like being at the DMV. Like, it was not great watching Julius Randle play basketball, but I think part of the reason that they're as contenderish as they are now is because he's found a really important role. And I think this team without him, at least this season, I don't know how high their ceiling could be without all the, like the Dane said, the 14-point triple-double. They need that playmaking on a team that still lacks a little bit of it.
I think too, I think this was the year that really solidified, like it is hard to just fit in with this team. Like, it takes time. And you guys talked about that too. Like, we saw that 2 years ago with Rudy, like the integration of Rudy and like that being really clunky. Last year they had a year under their belt, so they kind of like smoothed it out a little bit. But this year we saw the clunkiness of integrating Rudy and just the lineups of like two ball-centric basketball players and then two guys that were non-shooters, and then you have Jaden kind of roaming. So like you have Rudy and like Rudy just trying to like clog space a little bit. It just was bad. I mean, it was tough to watch. So
I think we've turned a corner like in the last 2 weeks on that a little bit. Like, there's just I feel like Rudy changed his mind from being like, all right, offensively, I'm a play finisher with like catching a lob. And, I mean, that was, if you watched him in Utah, it's not like he didn't get offensive rebounds or he didn't do other things. But like, when we think about Rudy Gobert on the Utah Jazz scoring the basketball, it's a lob pass on a pick and roll there. And what's sort of shifted, I think, really recently is he's like, all right, nobody gives that to me, which this team just doesn't. They do not run high pick and roll and get it to Rudy effectively. And he's just like, I'm going to be a beast on the offensive glass. I'm going to force fouls on the interior because there's people, I'm big. Like, he started playing big in every sense of it. Whereas like when you're a roll man, it's like a little bit more finesse. You're moving, you're jumping. He's just like, it's probably kind of a good idea to have that in your bag as he like gets a little bit older too, when he might not be able to do that.
Or he's going to take the ball and take it the length of the court and slow Euro to the hoop.
Yes. Finesse is exactly how I would describe Rudy Gobert. He embodies finesse.
Always said that.
Open court, Rudy Gobert is the most electrifying player in the league. Kyle, no, I know you don't have that. Kyle, Dane, how this is going to sound weird. Do you guys think Julius Randle has rubbed off on Rudy just a little bit in that Rudy has been hitting he hits shooters on the roll a lot. He's always made the smart pass, but I've seen a lot more of that from Rudy with Randle in the mix. And maybe that's because of where Carl was on the floor, but what do you make of like Rudy's playmaking?
Yeah, no, I mean, I think it's super important. It's like the one thing I really like, I don't really believe in. I mean, like, but it has to work because basically that playmaking thing, right? He's like catching at the free throw line, right? In the middle of the floor. Well, what happens before that? He goes and sets a screen for Ant. His guy goes and doubles Ant. And now there he is. He's wide open in the middle of the floor, but he can't just like catch there and like pull up and take a
push shot.
Not even that. Like, definitely, you can't do that. You can't do a jump. So it's like he literally needs to be able to do that. And I know people like kind of hate that, and we make fun of it. But like, what? Like my thing is like, well, what do you suggest happens then when they leave him wide open after he goes to screen for Ant, which he's obviously going to do? You need to give the ball to Rudy there, and then he needs to either try and take like a dribble and finish, or spray it around to somebody on the perimeter.
I prefer the spraying. I prefer
do,
when
yeah.
Rudy
I
sprays.
think we all
Okay,
do.
Brett.
What other observations did you guys come up with from this? I just got
Well,
goosebumps and
on the Rudy point,
Oh, you got more.
in the past 2 weeks, he's learned how to catch balls that aren't perfectly like uncovered. No one, right to his hands. Like
uncovered balls.
Today's show is brought to you by Skims. Skims obviously has been in the women's space for a long time in their clothing and underwear, but they've really expanded their product this year to the men's side of things, specifically men's underwear. I have the stretch 5-inch boxer briefs, and they really are one of my most comfortable pairs of clothing I own, period. It's something I wear when I go to the gym to run or work out. It's kind of like compression shorts. Back in the day when you wear those for basketball, extremely comfortable for that, but then have another pair to put on to watch a movie on the couch or whatever it might be. It is seriously one of the most comfortable items of clothing I own. Again, for me, I have the 5-inch stretch boxer brief, but there are plenty of other options out there. And I think you should try and find a pair that works for you. You can do that by shopping Skims men's at skims.com or at Skims stores. If you do shop online, let them know we sent you. After you place your order, select podcast in the survey of where you heard about it. Select our show will pop up there in the drop-down menu. Skims is the official underwear partner of the NBA, WNBA, and USA Basketball.
the brand's leaking out. But no, like he's been able to. I don't know if he like put Gorilla Glue on his hands before games, but he's able to like actually grab a pass now, and it's just like it's a game changer. Like you don't have those turnovers where it's just like a ball trickles out of bounds.
It also, the season, you're reminded of how long the season is. Because remember when like everyone in here was like Mike Conley's cooked, and like Rudy Gobert's cooked, and like everyone like. You forget this. Sometimes you can have like a 3-week stint, but I mean, for those guys to also be playing as well as they are now is big. I do want to find out more of like what you remember from the season. It's probably off the court and memes, but I think the three of you quickly, like one word each, can each of you describe how you feel about Obi Toppin?
I honestly hope he dies.
Yeah, it's tough. It's tough look, Obi Toppin.
Yeah, it just I despise.
I don't know,
like he seems nice, but I've never hated a man
He
more
does
in my
not
life.
seem nice.
He's a very mean person.
I mean, he perfectly fits this mold. We've talked about this. This is a bit over the years, like the Wolves killers, the guys that play 10 minutes a game, and then they like Trace Jackson Davis just
Spencer
getting
Dinwiddie.
25 rebounds against us, and it's just unbelievable. Like
Wasn't Bertans?
Bertans was a Wolves killer.
Will Barton during his,
Will Barton wasn't. I proved that one wrong.
he had like 31 on us a couple of times.
It was horrible. So it's nice to have Obi Toppin on the Mount Rushmore of Wolves killers.
What do you
Great
guys,
beard.
what do you think you'll like? Did you get like the concept of what I was doing? I feel like every year we do this where it gets to be like the middle of the summer, or maybe even a year has gone back, and you go back and you're like, oh, the 22-23 season, this is what it was. Like, what do you think we will remember from the 24-25? I guess at least regular season, because it'll be determined by the playoff.
I can tell you, for me, the first thing I'm going to remember is the end of the reign of terror of Glenn Taylor.
Yes.
Or the reign of Taylor, if you will. That's done. It's over. It's in the books, and we can start fresh with some new ownership.
Yeah.
But I mean, that is like, it was a multiple
Huge.
year-long just headache for fan base, and like this kind of like, I don't know, great
Low-level
cloud over.
anxiety.
Yeah, exactly. The memes were great, but outside of that, it was just tough to be going on in the background. So I think I'm just excited for that to be done.
How much do you think we're going to remember the brawl? Because I don't remember much about the Magic Austin Rivers brawl, but this brawl seems a little more serious.
Yeah, that one, I think that one will stick. I think it was also kind of like a sort of defining Dante DiVincenzo moment, right?
A little more
Moment
memeable
Dante
too, like
became a
grabbing it.
wolf.
Yeah.
What?
It's the moment Dante became a wolf.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. I think to the ownership one real quick, like I think next year that'll for sure be that. We'll be like, okay, there was new ownership. They made change X, Y, and Z. Did they pay the luxury second apron, whatever it might be? Like it happened now, but we haven't felt the impacts. This has been like a year with no leader, right? It's just been there's been no owner of the team, and next year there'll be a clear one. And as they always say, like I think that's the most important thing in professional sports is ownership.
Are you saying we haven't felt the impact this season, or just since A-Rod?
Yeah, I mean, I just think like internally in the organization, there's like people who
It
are
was
hired
put on
under
pause.
you know that like it's just it's split, And I think like from building the roster out, building the brand of the Timberwolves out, maybe building a stadium, like those things are gonna start to happen. And I mean, none of that would have happened if you didn't have an ownership change. I'm not saying like Mark and Alex are going to be perfect, but
They're going to be better.
It's going to be different. Yeah, it would be hard to be worse. It would be hard to be worse.
Before they were cut out like a season and a half ago, and we've talked about this as a big like impetus, like catalyst, like push forward for the team, was A-Rod going, the hallways suck. And
that was pissing Glenn Taylor off.
But like making the hallways in the locker rooms cool. You got, like, it sounds stupid, but I think Brandon, or maybe it was you, Durf, you pointed out on the pod, like, this is what an imposing player sees when they come to target.
I think that was actually me on my pod.
I brought it up on the pod and I cited Dane.
That's right. Wow, that's like pod inception.
Full circle.
It was okay. So this is my first time. It was my first time ever going to like Target Center for a media thing, and the walls were literally like falling apart in the hallway, and I'm like, this is weird. And then I learned like later that year that's where the opposing players come in. I'm like, no wonder nobody ever signed here in free agency. That stuff matters.
I'm sorry for plagiarizing you.
That's like a perspective that Alex Rodriguez has that's unique to like most like billionaires that own a team, is that he played professional sports. So he knows what the athletes are thinking when they walk into the other team's arena, or in his case, stadium. Like, he knows that's the first impression that people have of your organization. So he can offer that perspective that Glenn Taylor really can't.
Maybe A-Rod should like, hey, Kevin Durant, do you want a parlor burger from section 120? You want a hen and Coke from the bar?
I bet Kevin Durant loves hen and Coke.
Yeah, he definitely does. He'd definitely be a part of us.
Pivoting a bit, but another like, I don't know, guys, meme centric is like, when I think back to this year, it's like the friendship of the team. Like, I think a few months, it's like you're seeing how interconnected like the benches, and we saw that last year too, but like they're just buds. Like they're like
some bros.
Yeah, they're just hanging out, having a good time. Joe Ingles is wearing a Jaden McDaniels hat. Like, they all support each other, and like, I don't know, it's just like, as a fan, you want to see good on-court product as well. But like, when you have guys that are likable and like each other, it's just like, it's good vibes.
It's easy to cheer for like bromance.
Yeah.
I just think it's cool. Like, whatever more I can gather from the locker room, that it's like a group that is expanding, like starting with the like 25 and under guys like Nas and Jaden, and like Jalen Clark is now like very much a part of that group. I mean, it's like any sort of social situation, like you gravitate towards certain people. Like, I think overall they're all cool, but like friends with each other. And Joe Ingles, who's 15 years older than Jaden, can do that. But there's also, I think it's like the culture of a young core. And theoretically, right, in a couple of years, if there's no Mike and Rudy and some of the older guys, like, that's who it's going to be with Ant and Jaden and Nas. And that is just like legitimately true. Those guys are all like best friends and hang out all the time.
So my question was, can you corroborate like Nate's theory that like you've been covering the team, you've been closer than we ever
Dane's
were.
Just like, no, they hate each other.
What percentage better vibes was it compared to like the Jimmy Butler year?
Well, the Jimmy Butler year in the locker room was so clear that there was like old guys and young guys. And even at the beginning of the year before it was toxic, it was just, there were guys in there like, I mean, Jamal Crawford was probably like 38 that year or something like that. And Jimmy and Taj Gibson. And then there was like Wig and Kat and was a Kogi on that? Like, whatever. There was just like a younger Tyus. Actually, Tyus was kind of with the older guys, but it was like really apparent that there was this group of guys hangs out with each other and this group of guys hangs out with each other. And then when it got rocky, it was like there is a divide between those two groups. And I mean, honestly, other than like the last D'Lo year wasn't all D'Lo, but that was like a little toxic locker room wise. But
well,
I mean, he was definitely a factor. I'm not saying it, but there's other things I can say too that it wasn't just D'Lo.
Yeah.
But there hasn't been. It was that Jimmy year and the D'Lo year, and other than that, it's been, I think, in Ant's time, it's been a really.
They go to falling knife together, is what you're saying.
Yeah, all the time.
Brandon, have you done one? Things you saw?
So this one's probably not a thing that we'll remember, but this is definitely a thing I'll remember about this season, is that it's the season we signed Bones Highland.
As he's wearing a Bones Highland custom jersey right now.
Yeah, I kind of became the Bones Highland guy. Like, they signed Bones Highland, and I got like 10, 15, 20 people just tweeting at me in like the first 5 minutes. They're like, Brandon, they signed Bones Island. This is amazing.
Is there a way to ladder that up to like we can actually get? This is going to sound stupid. Names.
You don't need to turn this into real basketball talk. Bones Island's buddies with Tim Connolly.
Like we can like Minnesota can attract people because of ants, and Bones Highland is a name. I'm trying to make it real. It's a real insight.
I will say that I always think when I think of Jaden McDaniels, I think of in his first year or something, there was like real steam in the fan base. Like we should trade him for PJ Tucker. Right. And then with Bones Highland, it was like,
didn't they try to do that?
Jaden for PJ Tucker.
Like before
he was on the Rockets at the time. And like now PJ Tucker has stumbled his way into a shoe collection and now he's on the Knicks. But like Bones Highland, like there was like a real moment in time before a trade deadline a couple years ago. It's like, would you trade Bones Highland straight up for Naz Reid? And just like, I'm the guy that said Jalen Noel should get $80 million. And I don't know if Jalen Noel plays basketball anymore, but it's a nice reminder sometimes if you pull yourself out of the moment, that player that you're into might not be that good come a couple of years now, because Bones Highland, who you have a jersey, and I have no idea how you got that, is pretty much known for his performance in Iowa so far more. But I mean, you get him on a 10-day compared to 2 years ago, he was like a real deal.
Yeah, but his name is Bones, and he makes really cool shots sometimes. Bones Highland, true shooting percentage, 83.3% in the end with the Wolves this season.
That's the single stat that we brought.
And again, if you are, I don't know how you are, but if you're unfamiliar with these guys and what they do, Crunch Wears No Pants, it's like it's way more fun pod than what we do. And I really appreciate you guys. But I think you should also kind of comment as we close this up on, we talk about the toxicity of this season. It was tough online. Like it was tough no matter how much fun you try to have. Like when Carl was traded, it splintered the fan base. You're coming off the best season in 20 years. And I think about that Pistons melee fight, and it brings the guys together, and Dante becomes a wolf of the pack and all that stuff. But it also kind of like, that was the first night it was galvanized on Twitter. It was like F you to everyone else. It was Detroit versus Minnesota, Lions versus Vikings. Like, I think this team now, and the play helps and the success helps, but like, I don't think we would have had this showing in November. You know what I mean? Like, I think people are now like, okay, we're back. We believe in this team. You know, we've been through the mud. We're like Eminem and 8 Mile. And like, I think that's been cool to see that come back, because last year from April and May, that was the 2 most fun months you've ever had following this team in your life.
I think the fan base needed a little adversity. In Dark Knight Rises, Bane says, victory has defeated you. And I feel like making the playoffs like 3 seasons in a row kind of softened up the fan base a bit. So, you know, going through the mud like Rabbit. What happened in 8 Mile? His girlfriend cheated on him? Yeah. Remember 8 Mile, Dan?
I do.
But Academy Award-winning film.
I think no matter how galvanized the fan base was, there's still going to be post-game tweets about Rob playing more minutes. It doesn't matter. We could win by 20, and well, that's not a good example because there's garbage time. But like a key game, and it's just there's still going to be that subsection.
I think part of that is part of like a team getting good. Actually, like it there was, you know, for so many years, like just a specific contingent of people who are like, I'm going to waste this much of my life watching the Timberwolves for little to no value, right? Mm-hmm. And as you get better, you know, there's more reason. I mean, that's when I watch like the Twins, right? When it's more intriguing to do so. And when you just like broaden that, I think it just comes with some of the territory of like, there's more frustration, there's more expectations, and sometimes stuff gets like a little messy. So just, in all seriousness, I've really appreciated that for me, it like sucks to like get that all the time. And you guys have really been like we're going to enjoy this. No. And I think that should be like, that should be the baseline of all of this, right? For if you're spending this time doing this, like enjoy it. You can have your takes, you can have your opinions, but it should be just about like enjoying the basketball.
And we've talked about this on this show before. It's like, if you're not having fun, like you don't have to watch them. Right. Like you're not being sentenced to watch the Timberwolves. So enjoy it. And like they might win 50 games this year.
The opinion is basketball's fun and we all look hot in black, blue, and green. So let's just have a fun time cheering for our squad straight out.
All right. This has been fun. This is the Crunch Wears No Pants podcast. You guys can check that out. I mean, you guys, do you have a specific, I mean, it's once or twice a week, something like that?
Once a week or once every 10 days, depending on if I upload it in time.
There you go.
At No Pants Crunch on Twitter, Instagram, and TikTok. If you follow us on Apple Podcasts or Spotify, remember 1 star or 5 stars. We're going to say something.
Stand on it.
See you later.
All right, let's hear for these guys. Thank you. Again, we really appreciate all you guys being out here. This is really fun for us. That you want to come and watch us talk into microphones is always a lot and means a lot to us. We're going to be here hanging out for the duration of the game, and afterwards, we want to watch Duke afterwards as well. Kyle, Cooper, to you as well. Kyle, you have final thoughts?
Yeah, I just wanted to hammer home again because I think it's a really good deal. If you didn't hear before, Treasure Island and the Timberwolves are teaming up to host another watch party here during the playoffs, not play-in because we're going to get to the playoffs. But stay tuned. Go to ticasino.com. I think it's lodging, 2 tickets, airfare. You go to one of the, probably game 4, game 5 of the playoffs. That'd be an awesome experience. Just kind of be on the road or whatever and follow the team. So go check that out. And then, after this, I think we're going to watch the game and have, there's free giveaways and food and stuff. But I appreciate everyone, again, coming out and supporting the show.
Yeah, make sure you enter to win. They're going to do a lot of giveaways. I think one of the main ones is the autographed Ant jersey. Obviously, that's awesome. You can do that by signing up for a Treasure Island Players Club card. It's free. And if maybe you live closer around here and you want to have a place to go to watch the playoff games this spring, Treasure Island is going to be an option to watch here. I mean, there's a million TVs. The place is awesome. And then make sure to sign up to be able to be entered to win that trip in the playoffs as well. Again, we'll let you know more about that on the pod. Anything else?
16.5-point favorites for a lot of teams. You're like, all right.
If they lose this game, we'll all be here together. Thank you guys so much. That's Cooper. That's Kyle. I'm Dane. Until Monday, peace out.